I live on the 35th floor, and I want you to understand something clearly before this video goes any further. Buying this apartment may be the biggest mistake of my life, not because it's small, not because it's old, but because it is already dying. After just 2 months, I realized something terrifying. No matter how much money I lose, no one wants to buy it. 5 million yuan gone, and still no buyer. That's when it hit me. These towers aren't homes, they're time bombs. And across China, millions of people are living inside them without even knowing it. What shocked me most wasn't the discomfort. It was the realization that this apartment is already worthless. Even if I slash the price by 5 million yuan today, no one wants it. No buyers, no interest, nothing. That's when the truth hit me. High-rise living in China isn't a symbol of progress. It's a trap. And millions of families are already inside it, whether they realize it or not. For years, towering residential blocks were marketed as the pride of China's economic rise. They were praised as modern, efficient, and futuristic. But fast forward a few decades, and a very different picture emerges. 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, many of these buildings will not age gracefully. They will rot. Entire neighborhoods will decay. Some will turn into vertical slums. Others will be completely abandoned. Hollow concrete shells filled with broken elevators, leaking pipes, and people who have nowhere else to go. In fact, this future has already arrived. On the border between Shenzhen and Dongguan, there is a place most people don't want to talk about. In Guanjingtu, Dongguan, stands a residential complex built in 1993. It is barely over 30 years old. By any reasonable standard, it should still be in its prime. Instead, its exterior walls are falling apart. Paint peels off in sheets. Concrete cracks are visible from the street. Many residents have already fled, leaving behind darkened windows and empty hallways. Walking through the compound feels like stepping into a forgotten zone where time stopped caring. This is the fate waiting for countless high-rise communities across China. The problem isn't bad luck, it's design. High-rise buildings carry a fatal flaw that developers never mention and land sellers carefully avoid. The truth is simple and brutal. One day, nobody will want to buy them. Not because of rumors or panic, but because the economics no longer work. At first, high-rises seem efficient. Stack people vertically, save land, maximize profits. But maintenance doesn't scale the same way. The higher the building, the harder it is to fix. Elevators break, pipes age, electrical systems degrade, water pressure drops, and every repair costs exponentially more than in low-rise housing. These buildings may be designed on paper to last 50 years, but in reality, serious problems begin after just 25 or 30. Once deterioration starts, it accelerates. Repair costs rise, maintenance funds dry up, wealthier residents move out first. What remains is an aging population with limited income, trapped in a building they cannot fix and cannot sell. At that point, decline becomes irreversible. Living high above the ground is often described as peaceful. The reality is very different. The corridors are exposed to wind and rain. Railings are often dangerously low. Looking down makes your legs tremble. For families with children, the fear never leaves. A moment of distraction is all it takes for tragedy. During storms, rainwater floods the walkways, turning floors into ice. In winter, even adults slip and fall repeatedly. This is not safety. This is constant risk. And then there is the shaking. On windy days, the building sways. You feel it in your bones. At night, when everything is quiet, even small vibrations become terrifying. You lie in bed wondering whether this structure will still be standing in 20 years, or whether you're living inside a slow-motion disaster. The elevator is another silent enemy. In Shijiazhuang, there is a 16-story residential building built in 1986, and it once had 2 elevators. Now only one barely functions. Most of the buttons no longer work. People get trapped inside regularly. Fire hazards and water leaks are common due to aging wiring and pipes. Younger residents with money have already left. Those who remain are mostly elderly, climbing stairs when the elevator fails, hoping nothing goes wrong. Replacing elevators sounds simple, but it isn't. Over a 70-year ownership period, elevators need to be replaced multiple times. Each replacement costs hundreds of thousands of yuan. When the building is already declining, who pays? The answer is no one. The people who could afford it are gone. The people left behind can barely survive. Some believe demolition will solve everything. It won't. Developers make money by tearing down low-rise buildings and replacing them with taller ones. But demolishing a 30-story building only makes sense if you build 60 or 70 stories in its place. In many areas, that's impossible. These buildings are too big to fail and too expensive to save. Fire is the greatest fear for many residents. In a high-rise, escape routes are limited. Elevators stop. Stairwells fill with smoke. Rescue becomes a race against time that often cannot be won. Elderly residents know this. They live with the knowledge that if something happens, they may not make it out alive. Noise, dust, weak phone signals, overcrowding, endless elevator waits, shrinking usable space. These problems pile up quickly. You pay for 100 square meters, but only 70 are actually usable. The rest disappears into shared corridors, machine rooms, and structural space. Emergency services struggle above certain floors. Fire trucks cannot reach high enough. Water pressure fails. Systems that look impressive on paper collapse under real-world stress. Across China, management companies are withdrawing from aging high-rise communities because profits disappear. Without management, buildings become dirty, unsafe, and lawless. Analysts warn that in lower-tier cities, high-rises will become ghost towers. In major cities, they will transform into low-rent urban villages stacked vertically instead of spread across land. The cruel irony is that property rights last 70 years, but buildings rarely survive that long. Most residents will never live to see the end of their ownership period. In practice, they are paying lifetime savings for assets that expire early. That is why more people are beginning to call high-rise housing what it truly is, a long-term illusion. Nowhere is this more visible than in Wuhan. Entire districts are packed with 50 and 60-story towers. From above, the city looks like a forest of concrete needles. Sunlight barely reaches the ground. Wind howls between buildings like a warning. These towers look new, but their future is already written. Once maintenance fails, everything collapses at once. Economist Ying Rui argues that the reason behind this madness is profit, not necessity. Cities do not need so many high-rises. They were built to extract decades of wealth from ordinary people in a few short years. This model consumes future growth in advance, leaving nothing behind but debt, decay, and empty shells. Despite official claims that new homes are selling fast, unsold inventory continues to grow. Abandoned buildings are no longer rare exceptions. They are becoming the norm. And for those still living high above the ground, the question is no longer whether this system will fail, but when. When you strip away the glossy advertisements and political slogans, China's high-rise crisis is not a story about architecture or urban planning. It is a story about profit placed above human life. In the race to extract maximum returns, safety became negotiable, quality became optional, and durability became an obstacle. Tofu-Dreg construction did not spread by accident. It spread because cutting corners was rewarded, while responsibility was systematically erased. What should have been homes built for generations were instead rushed products designed to cash out quickly and collapse quietly later. Corruption acted like termites hidden inside concrete and steel. Inspections were reduced to paperwork, standards were bent for bribes, and once the money was collected, accountability vanished. When walls cracked, elevators failed, or fires broke out, there was no one left to answer for it. Developers had already exited, officials had already moved on, and residents were left trapped inside decaying structures they could neither repair nor escape. The collapse of these buildings mirrors the collapse of trust itself. The human consequences are severe and long-lasting. Families pour their lifetime savings into apartments that lose value year after year. Elderly residents are stranded in aging towers, fearing power outages, fires, and broken elevators. Children grow up surrounded by risk, learning to accept danger as normal. As maintenance fails and management withdraws, Entire communities slide toward slum conditions, creating vertical pockets of poverty that did not exist before. What was sold as modernization slowly mutates into social instability. Ultimately, Tofu-Dreg buildings are monuments to short-term thinking. They stand as warnings carved into the skyline, proving that cities built to harvest wealth instead of serve people are destined to rot. From a distance, these towers still look impressive. Up close, they reveal a system hollowed out by greed and corruption. If profit continues to outweigh accountability, today's luxury high-rises will become tomorrow's ruins, and when they fall, the true cost will not be measured in money, but in lives permanently damaged by broken promises.